you. So let's talk. What are you doing these days? Like when we met, I mean, you wear so many different hats. You're such a unicorn in the ways that you're able to pivot. You can run groups. You're good at one-on-ones. You're a creator. You know how to bring in the right people, the right things to create just beautiful settings. So for example, like I did your retreat in Costa Rica. I also did the one in Boulder, Colorado, not Colorado, Boulder, Utah. That's where you guys are. And both were totally unique, but different and fun, and just creating such a sacred space for people, for these groups, women to come and connect and be vulnerable and have that space together. And you're still doing that right now, or continuing to do that?
Yeah, I really follow a kind of an intuitive current, what I feel drawn to create. I really have to love it. I have to love the spaces and the experience. So we're still doing those retreats. We're doing a lot of 1 day experiences for people to come out that don't feel like the 4 day retreat is as accessible, or they can't get the time off, or kids or whatever. And so we're doing some 1 days with the horses and art, or meditation, time in nature and art. And then I'm reworking a course that I've had for a long time called True Nature. It's had different names, but it's really my foundational program, like the core of that's the through line through everything. So I'm redoing that, and kind of a new iteration based on our times and being in this like real liminal space that so many people are finding themselves in, of like, what is happening? I'm not who I
What was
was.
that word you just used? Renimial?
Liminal.
What does that mean?
Liminal.
Sorry.
Liminal space is like the space between. So it's like this space where we're not recognizing what was fully, but what's coming is not yet here. And so you're just in this in between
Purgatory.
space. Purgatory.
Or
Yeah,
the in
or
between, the void, I guess.
the void, yeah. And I actually just did two sessions called The Sacred In Between, because I really want to create a narrative around it, around how it's actually this really beautiful time. It's awkward and it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable, because our mind starts to wander to those unknown places of imagined danger. Because it's like our mind imagines all the worst things that are going to happen when we don't know, versus we're actually growing and becoming, and all these amazing things could be happening, but we're so uncomfortable with it. But really, like, what I love about liminal space is it reminds us that we actually grow in cyclical change versus linear change that our culture really sort of trains us in and models in school and models throughout our life. And so we tend to track ourselves on this timeline. Like, okay, I'm at this age, so I should be here. I'm at this age, I should be here. Oh, I have a demerit because whatever happened, like I fell back. I'm not where I should be. And we beat ourselves up, versus, oh, cyclical cycles are really natural. And liminal spaces where we're kind of back in if we look at the caterpillar and the butterfly, we're back in the goo. And in the dreaming and scheming and
I
the
worked so hard to
unknown.
get out of that too, but you're right. I feel like I thought I was out, but I'm not. I'm still here.
Right. Yeah, it can take a really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can take a really long time. Too long sometimes.
Yeah. And you can go out and come back in. I mean, like you said,
Yes.
it's cycles, and that's what I've had to realize too. There's no finish line. It's like
There's no
it's just a
finish line.
constant iteration of something different.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. I love your analogy of the butterfly. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because that really
Yes.
resonated when, once you and I met and we went over it, and then identifying like where I'm at in that cycle, and then realizing I was wrong. I wasn't at that point, because hindsight is 2020. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I thought I was here, but now looking at that, I was not. I was there. And so but it can be challenging to identify during the process where you may or may not be in that cycle.
Right. Yeah. So, and sometimes, like I look at like name it to tame it, and so sometimes even if we misidentify it, we're at least naming that we're in some kind of change,
Yeah.
right? And it's okay. So yeah, so would it be helpful to kind of go over
Yeah, let's talk about that.
okay.
I love it.
So The first stage is, and if you think about the caterpillar, so I used to think that the caterpillar went into a cocoon and then just grew these little wings, right, while it was in there.
Mhm.
And what I didn't know was that it went into a complete state of liquid. And it's like the only living organism that is in a state of liquid. So it completely liquefies. And so this stage, if we look at when this happens in our life, this is usually from something that's like a state of shock, whether we put ourselves in it, like we ask for a divorce or we leave our job or we say, I'm moving or I'm done with this, like we create the shock to the system, or it happens to like unknown to us, but it's like we're asked for a divorce or we're fired from the job or we're told we need this is done and it's a shock to, so either way there's some kind of shock to the system that where we feel like a complete identity loss, like we literally feel like we can't find our footing and we're in the goo. And so that's really where, and people just naming that, like, oh my gosh, I'm in the goo. Like there's a relief there because we're able to identify, we don't need to know what to do. Like we have such a culture of stay in action, produce results, get it done, right? And when in
Yep.
that state, it's like literally can't. It's like just deciding what to have for breakfast, right? Is
Mhm.
like a major accomplishment. So in this stage, if we can identify that we've had some kind of shock to the system, or we can't really, we don't know, we don't have a knowing of who we are or what to do next, then really what to do in this stage is just amp up the self-care
Mhm.
and focus on, okay, today I'm going to go easy on myself. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to eat the right foods. I'm going to drink water. I'm going to breathe more fresh air. I'm going to be gentle with my thoughts. And I'm going to take the action that I can or that I need to, but I'm not going to create like these huge goals for myself. And then the next phase is
Which is
like,
great because when you're in that state of goo, like we talked about the lower energy, like trying to manifest something in that phase typically doesn't bode well for you because
right.
the world you're in and you can't even like you said, decide on breakfast, but now we're going to make life decisions. It usually doesn't work good to try to force something big into your life during that period of time.
Right. And that's really where the linear measures really messes us up because we're in the goo and then we're looking out going, I should be there. I should be accomplishing that like that person, or at this age, I should be doing that. And it's like we just don't have that capacity versus, oh, I'm in a new growth cycle. I'll come out of it. But I don't know the caterpillar doesn't know when it goes in that it's even going to become a butterfly,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, how do we create a goal or a vision when we don't even know what's happening?
Yeah.
So if we can just give ourselves space to be in that really sacred place and honor that. And then one thing I want to mention too is that we can be in different phases in different areas of our life. Sometimes we get those moments where like everything's in the goo, like everything, the shit storm is like, oh my God, everything's falling apart. But sometimes it's our relationship, but our work life is going really well, or our health is in the goo, but our relationship is going well. So sometimes it's helpful too to kind of look at different areas of our life and where we are in the growth cycle in our lives, because it also, like when we're in the goo in one area, it's helpful to look and say, okay, I feel really uncertain here, but here is where like it is working. I do feel really good here. I am capable, right? This is working.
Yeah.
So eventually from that, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and I love that. And I'm just going to link this to 75 Hard or the program that you're on. So for me, when I'm in that space, the one thing for sure I can be positive over is my physical health.
Yes.
No matter what, money, situations, it doesn't matter. That's one thing that I can be 100% cause over. And so for me, I think that's why I just keep going back to 75 Hard, especially in times where I'm in the goo, where I'm like, I need to be in control of something. And then what happens is you start to feel better. So you can now focus on these other areas where you're not in control or you're not making decisions based out of not feeling good in these other areas, because at least you got that. For me, at least I got that area on lock so that I can make better decisions elsewhere without that being a factor.
Yeah, yeah, it's empowering, right? You feel strong and clear-headed. Like there's nothing worse than feeling in the goo and then and then you feel like crap
And you're
physically. And
perpetuating it by, comfort foods and all the different things
yes.
where it almost just makes it worse than, making it better.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And thinking about long term, how do I want to feel long term? I'm in a cycle that I will get out of versus like a short term. And we all make those, that short term, like I just want to eat that or do that to feel better
Yeah.
right now. But if we can mostly have that bigger vision, like 75 hard is such a great practice because it has a beginning, an end, a structure.
Yeah.
And so often when we're in the goo, like having a structure that we know we can do is so empowering,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like we need a little bit of structure in the unknown, like a little bit of certainty in all the uncertainty.
Exactly. And then you get the dopamine hits from completing the task and drinking the water and doing all the things that are hard. They're not easy.
Yes.
So you feel
Yeah.
good about it. At least I'm doing something hard. But
Yes.
yeah, it's for me, it's a perfect time to get through that goo. Yeah.
Yes.
So then what happens after the goo? Like how long this little butterfly worked so hard, it like literally melted its body and now is re-putting back together its cells to create a whole new body. Like that's
Right.
insane.
I know it is miraculous when we look
Yeah.
to nature and see our own nature and our own, like I always think of like the acorn to the oak tree. Like we're all born with this DNA to become our fullest potential, right? And then I personally feel like culture gets in the way of that by saying what we should be doing and how we should be behaving and what we, what are the measures of accomplishment versus following our own inner map
Yep.
that we become our own beautiful butterfly or oak tree or whatever it is. So the goo, I mean, I literally have gone through full cycles in a day. Like I wake up in the goo, and then by the end of the day, I feel like I've become a butterfly. Then there's like the longer,
Yeah. Then there's like the months
yeah,
of goo, and you're like, oh
there's
my
the
God, is
months
it
of
ever
goo,
going to
yeah.
end?
Like we feel. So I don't know that there's like one kind of, for sure timeline, but they can feel, especially like if we have something really, really significant in our lives happening, that's a
Yeah.
major shock to the system.
Yeah.
It can take a while, but each time, if we really are aware of it, I think each time we move through it quicker because we've grown,
Hmm.
right? We're like, oh, okay, this is the goo, and I'm okay with that. Versus
Yeah.
like
Well, and then you
staying.
have some predictability of like, okay, so I'm at this part of it. Okay, it's fine. I got through it last time. I know I'm going to get through it. And it almost
Yes.
gives you a little comfort and confidence and not wallowing in it. This isn't going to last forever. It never has. Let's look at all the times in your life that you went through this cycle. Like it's okay. And this is where I
Yes.
think the knowledge is so powerful in the recognition of patterns and things in your life.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And the more we have, like I have some go-to practices with for whatever stage that I'm in that because if we have practices to just bring ourselves to the present moment,
Mhm.
we're always okay. Like whatever practices to cultivate peace and bring us to right here in this moment, no matter what is happening.
Yep.
I'm okay right now in this moment. And I'm trained in Byron Katie. She's someone I love her work. But one of the practices or one of the kind of statements we can say is, other than what I'm thinking and believing, am I okay in this moment?
Mm.
And that will put me right into I'm okay because I've always, no matter what has happened in my life, and I've been through my own challenges, I can always answer that question, yes. Even if there's a shitstorm and I don't know how that's going to work out, it's like other than what I'm thinking and believing, am I okay right now in this very moment?
Mhm.
I am. And so the nervous system, everything else starts to believe that too and know like, okay, I'm actually not going to die from this. It's challenging, but I'm not going to die from this.
Yes.
And then we find ourselves one day going into the next stage, which is we start to see possibilities. We start to get, like I like to call them inklings, but we
Mhm.
get these little inklings of like a vision, an idea, like, oh, like it could be really subtle, but it's kind of like
Yep.
that. Oh, wait, I could do this. Or, oh, I feel inspired by that. Or we meet somebody and we're like,
Yep.
I didn't know that existed. Or somebody's like, hey, I can help you with that. So it's
I
like we
love
move.
that. I consider that space like the synchronicity space. Like you
Yes.
have the thought, you get the confirmation. And I
Yeah.
recently just finally got back into the space because I was in the goo for a bit now. And then all of a sudden, so I could feel the shift. And then all of a sudden there's the synchronicity, the confirmation over there, the person who reached out over there, this thing over here. And like Tots, he works for me. He's like, I don't know how you see all that stuff. I'm like, because I look for it. Because
Yes.
for me, I enjoy that external validation, which is just confirming what you're already thinking or seeing. Like it's there for everybody. You just got to train yourself to start looking for it. Like you're talking about in this phase where you're seeing the opportunities and the things that you weren't seeing just a little while ago.
Right. And that's so good to note, like really to seek the synchronicities
Yeah.
and look for them. Like,
Mm.
where am I seeing the messages? Where am I seeing the confirmation? Where the like numbers come in for me a lot, right? To
Mm.
just say, like, you're right on track or follow this. And then also like our own inner compass, following, like if we get an invitation to something, like it might not make sense in our mind why we are to go to that, or our mind's like, well, what am I going to get out of that? Or why is that worth it? And it's like, I don't know. It doesn't make logical sense. But when I tune into that, I'm getting a yes. I'm getting a leaning forward. And the same with no. Like, yes, that seems like a good opportunity for me or somewhere I should be, but my body's like giving me the no, that's not where you're supposed to be. So I think the more we like follow that, the signs and the synchronicities and trust our own inner compass,
Yeah.
things start to fall into place, and we might not see the whole vision, but we're starting to get like the form.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting for me. I look at when I'm, in the goo, I'm in my head. I'm trying to solve every problem. I'm trying to think of every scenario, every outcome, everything. I'm being super responsible. Like it's all mental. And for myself, I realized, although I'm Gemini, I'm Mercurial, I'm already always thinking anyway, but it also kind of kills my soul because when my brain takes over, my
Yes.
heart shrinks. I'm trying to
Yes.
figure everything out instead of just leading with my heart and what I love, and I'm not overthinking things, and then I see the synchronicities. So, but when you're in it, when you're in that goo, you feel like you're doing the right thing by trying to outthink yourself out of it. And then
Right.
for me, I realized you're not going to think your way out of this box. Like just trust and lead with your heart. And that's always been big for me in that phase of transition.
Yes, absolutely. I'm a Gemini too, like the overthinkers
Oh
of
my
the world.
God. Every little scenario, every possible
Yes.
scenario, every outcome of every scenario. Like,
The ruminating on the past and the future.
oh my God. Yeah, it is. It is. That's why I like breath work so much, because when I'm just sitting in meditation, those thoughts, it's really hard for me to just make them stop. But at least when I'm doing breath work and retentions, and it kind of short circuits the thinking into the feeling, and
Yes.
that's where the joy and the love and all the things start, the good stuff happens. But I almost have to like force myself into that to create it.
Yes. Yeah. And I found too with breaking that pattern of the overthinking and then the swirl of thoughts of like, okay, I'm going there. So instead, I'm going to do some breath work, right? Or imagine like open my heart, quiet the mind, open the heart, like some kind of mantra that gets me out of that space. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I love that quote, like, other than what I'm thinking and feeling, am I okay, or believing, am I okay? Like anything that brings you into the present moment and just reminds you, because the mind will just create imagined danger,
Yep.
right? And it never creates like the most amazing scenario that you're going to be even better off, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
like it
Yeah.
creates all the bad things that are going to happen. And so it's like getting out, staying out of the mind, staying present, and then staying in self-care and aligned action.
Yeah.
I have found is just like the way to stay on course. And then like just surrender, it's like, okay, just surrender. Like if I stay present, if I stay in aligned action, I know the next right action will show up for me,
Yeah.
right? Like the whole universe, like if we look at the universe as a whole, the way it operates, and you look at it, nature, it's not like figuring out what it needs to do. It's just it's working, through this other, like what we can't understand.
Yeah.
So the more we can tune into that energy, the more it really, like, we have a trust in the bigger unfolding.
Yeah. Well, and I love it because you hit on exactly like what's been such a big shift for me these last years, since we met and right before, is the body knows. The
Yes.
body knows. So quit thinking and just feel with the body. And again, this is where having good health is good because you're not paying attention to artificially created unhealthy body, which could be like messing up those signals. You're really like in tune with your body and your health so that you're more open and aware when something, like you said, a hard no comes across, you feel it in your stomach, or a yes, you feel butterflies. Like you can like trust yourself more because you know it's not being artificially created. It's actually responding to whatever, and you can trust that feeling in the body, not in the mind.
Yeah. Right. And I know, so also like the body will also give you a feeling of relief when you hit truth. So one of the things I look at for myself is like we create these narratives in our mind, right? Like a story of our life or the past or the future. And if that story is causing a lot of stress, it's an opportunity to really look at what is another narrative or story I can create around this, because we're going to make up a story anyway. Like what's really true, right? So when we create a narrative, like this is something that I often do with people, like at retreats and in coaching is like, okay, if I say to you, everything is way off track, completely mess this up, it's never going to work out. Like notice what you feel in your body. And it's like, oh my God, tension and fear and like contraction and frozenness.
Literally, just as you were saying that, my stomach was
Yeah.
clenching.
Like
Oh,
in knots. Yeah. Versus
yeah.
if I said, it's all part of the grand organized design. We're growing in the ways that we need to. You're right on track. The next step will present itself. It's all okay. It's all working. Immediately, the body relaxes and feels relief. And then we're actually able to stay in action as well.
Mm,
So I'm always looking for that, even the nuance of the stories to creating a story or a narrative until my body relaxes into it and
mm,
is like, okay, I've hit some truth,
mhm,
right? And whether it's true or not, it's having me feel better and it's having me move into action.
I love that. So is that something like you verbally will say to yourself? Is this in meditation? Is this a journaling activity? Like, how do you get yourself into that state?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of all like I use all the tools. Right?
Yeah.
I'm like Mary Poppins, right? I'm like, what is in my tool bag? So sometimes I'll journal it out. Sometimes it's like I love being out in nature, even a fast walk. Or if I can't be, if I'm stuck somewhere where I can't go anywhere, I'll just in my mind be like, okay, like I love the question, is that true?
Mhm.
Right? And what else could be true? What's a different story here? And I could be sitting there in a meeting with you and I could just be like, okay, create a new story here. And I'll just shift it until I feel that relief and that lightness of like possibility.
Mhm.
And then if I'm really in it, um, then it's more like maybe a journal exercise or a meditation or a lot of things to like really break it apart.
Yeah.
But it's like a practice of just telling that a new story. And then eventually that old story I noticed will fall away. Like I
Yeah.
used to be such a worrier. Like it was like a habit just to worry.
Yeah.
And then that thing would resolve itself. And then I'd be worried about the next thing. It was just like
Yep.
it was such a pattern that wanted more of itself. So once I interrupted that and instead of worrying, I created what was possible. I created that new pattern.
Yeah. Well, and that's the key. It's the recreation of the neural pathways. I know Joe Dispenza, like a lot of these
Yes.
people, where we learned again to create neural pathways, whether it's true or not, we can create whatever truth we want, but it takes consisting and doing it over and over because you're literally creating a new path in your mind. And so your mind wants to go back to the old tried and true path, and you got to keep it like trained into the new path to create the new reality. And it takes work. And a lot of people give up before they get there, or they don't see instant results. So let me move on to the next thing. And really what is needed, again, kind of like 75 hard, is just that consistency to
Yeah.
build it and rebuild it and not give yourself an out to not do that anymore.
Yeah, you really have to build it like a muscle because think of like all the years that that pattern has been developed and then even multi generations
Yeah.
that you've got that pattern. And I remember one of the things that really set me free around this was the realization that it's not me, It's the pattern.
Yeah.
Like, it's not my essence. It's not my spirit. It's not who I am. It's this pattern, like anything, it wants to survive.
Yep.
And so it's like, I need to be gentle with it too, check in with it. Like, what do you want? Like, what do you need? What are you
Mhm.
trying to protect me from?
Yep.
And like hold it, and then, okay, you know what, we're safe, we're going to go in this other direction, and it's going to be okay. Like, we can kind of interact with it too, like parts work, like, what is this pattern, because it formed for some reason and it served us for some reason.
Yeah, it was a self-defense mechanism
Hmm.
because of some trauma or something
Right.
in your life. And so you create this self-defense and it serves well, it protects, but then it starts to work against you if you don't become aware of it and change it where it's no longer working, it's no longer serving.
Right, yeah, and it's not who we are
Yeah.
today. Right, and that's the part too, when we move out of this second phase of, we start to get these inklings, we start to get the whispers, we start to get the synchronicities, and then a vision comes clear,
Yeah.
right? And we get like the next, and again, it's like it could be different stages, places in our life. So if, let's say it's our work life or our calling, we get this clear vision of what it is. We're like, oh, I see what I want to step into. And we usually like declare something. I'm going to start a business, or I'm going to start a podcast, or I'm going to do this. And we put that, and I find a vision is really important in that stage because it puts a stake in the ground. It's like a tether to the kite. You can
Mhm.
give your energy a soft focus, because there's a lot of talk about, like, you don't want to stay attached, right? It's like, let's say you declare you're going to, you know, well, just for an easy example, you're going to climb like a major mountain, like Mount Kilimanjaro, right? And you kind of make that declaration, and then that puts you in training, right? And you're becoming that person that can make that climb. But then if that doesn't happen, if you get to that point and you injure yourself, or it's not safe or smart, or whatever is going on, it's like you still became that person. You still grew in the journey. You still, right? Versus, and then maybe the universe, or however you look at it, sort of changed course of where you really were supposed to be.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
like to look at that too. Like, you have the vision, but it's like a soft focus, because maybe there's something else that's in store for you.
Yeah.
But it's like, we have to have that vision to move in that direction, and to get all the lessons and the challenges for who we're becoming. And I found a lot of people think they're in the goo at that stage because it's so hard.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I'm in the goo again. And you're like, no, you're not in the goo again. You're in, well, I don't tell anyone where they're at, but for myself, I'm like, oh my God, I'm just in the goo again. It's like, no, actually, I declared this expanded version of myself. And now I'm getting all the challenges, and all the universe is like, okay, you want that? All right. So we're going to take 100 steps back, and you need to sort out this, and you need to be challenged in this way, and you need for this to fall away. So when we make those big declarations, our whole life can feel like it's falling apart, but it's actually realigning for this vision we just declared.
Yeah. So in the life cycle of the butterfly, would this be like, okay, he's out of the goo, but now we're forming this body? Or would it be like, we form the body and now we're trying to break out of this cocoon? Because all of it is work and it's hard and
Yes.
it's like uncomfortable. It's all the things.
Yeah. So it forms the body, it's all tucked in there,
Yeah.
and it has to get itself out of the cocoon. And this is a very, very hard stage
Yeah.
for the butterfly. And if you think about it, as far as like, if you went over and you were like, this poor little butterfly is in this cocoon and it just wants to get out and fly. So I'm going to go over there and make it easier. And I'm just going to rip open the cocoon to set it free. It would flop out of there and die, because the trying to get out, the work to get out of there, is giving it enough strength of the wings so that when it actually does get out, it can fly.
Yeah.
But it's a struggle. So this
And it's
state
hard
is,
for other people to watch. Like I've just noticed that
yes.
in general, because I've been in this phase a lot. And it's difficult to be in, and it's also difficult for others to see you in it. So everybody wants to solve the problem to get you through it really quick, When in
Yes.
reality, the only way out is the way through. You gotta just go through the
Yes.
process. There's
Yeah.
no
You have,
shortcut. There's no
yes.
circumventing, and there's nobody to save you. You've got to get yourself through this phase.
Right. Yeah. The Calvary's not coming.
Nope. Which that can be a big, like, setback too when you finally realize that.
Absolutely. That's a hard truth.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's like when you get to the other side, when you get the wings, right? We've
Yeah.
all had those moments where we look back and we're like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't trade it for anything
Yep.
because of who I've become and the strength that I have. And I like a different metaphor, but you know how there's the well-known hero's journey.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I read about recently a different one for the feminine,
Hmm.
which is like a descent. So rather than the way the hero's journey is presented, it's a descent into like the humus, like a dissolving, like a stripping of the jewels, a humility, and then
Mhm.
a rise from the ashes as like the full embodiment of like a queen or empress, right? So it's
Mm.
like princess to the descent, humility, and then the rise of like the empress, if you looking at archetypes. And I really resonated with that, uh, the heroine journey
Mhm.
of so many of our experiences where we're right, we're going along and then life happens where we just feel totally like stripped of the jewels and in humility.
The
And then
jewels, the joy, like
the
all of it.
jewels, the
Yeah.
joy, yes, yeah, everything. And we're left kind of to our own, really our own essence, and then we rise from there. And it's
Mhm.
so hard and people want to fix it and make it easier for us, and we really, to fully grow, have to go through that whole journey. And
Mhm.
that's where we get our new wings, right? And we're really able to fly. And a woman I work with shared with me recently, we were talking about the butterfly, and she said, yeah, and when the butterfly comes out, at first the wings are wet.
Oh.
And so there's this vulnerability when we first come out, but we're out, right? So
Mhm.
like we're out, but we're vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like when we
Probably
get
where
new,
the imposter syndrome starts to set in, like, oh my
yeah,
God, I did it. But now what? I don't know how to do this.
right, I don't know how to do this, I'm brand new here, and all these
Yeah.
other people, and we have this vulnerability also to share something really meaningful. Like if we've really gone authentically through this process and we come out becoming more of who we are, there can be a vulnerability there, because there's the way we can be, we're like, I don't care what anybody thinks about what I'm doing. But if really we're authentic, I mean, we can have some of that, because we're just like, I'm going to live my life.
Yeah.
But there's like a vulnerability in sharing from that place of like, this is my soul, like this is my heart, this matters to me.
Yeah.
And so to remember that even though we have these new wings, like we still, like every stage is self-care. Every
Yeah.
stage is boundaries. Every stage is surrounding ourselves with people who we feel heard and met and seen by and amplified by, right? Every stage has boundaries of like, no, I'm not tolerating that. Um,
Yeah.
so
And do you feel like it keeps testing you until you quote unquote pass that lesson? Like you continue to go through this phase in this cocoon? Or because I feel like that happens for me. I'm like, oh, I got it. I got that lesson. I feel super good about it. And like a couple months will go by and all of a sudden it crops its head in a different form. So you don't recognize it. You don't realize you're in this goddamn same lesson again. And then you're like, oh, how am I here again? I thought I beat this thing.
yeah,
Damn it. Okay. What
yeah.
more is there more to learn or do or know?
Right. Well, and that's the part where I think it's really important to acknowledge our and celebrate our growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's I don't know if you've heard of the book, oh God, what is it called? It, I'm forgetting, doesn't matter so much, but he talks about the gap and the gain and
Mhm.
how often we focus on the gap versus the gain.
Mhm.
He wrote 10x is easier than 2x, that
Okay.
author. But so I find myself, I have gone through like these cycles and I've grown so much and I've overcome so much, and then there's like another piece of it that shows up and I'm back in this gap of like, I'm not there, I haven't grown in this way, why is this bad? Versus, okay, here are all the way, the gain, like here are all the ways I've grown, here are all the things I've overcome, here are all the ways that things I've accomplished, the ways I've shown up. And now there's another like nuance showing up, or another layer of the onion showing up for me to work that I wasn't even ready for before. Like I had to work through these other things. And so acknowledging the gain versus the gap has been huge for me, because all my worry, all my just self-defeating thoughts, I was always in the gap.
Yep.
Like no matter what I accomplished, it was like the thing I still hadn't accomplished.
Yeah.
Right. I worked through all these really hard things. And then the next things, and I'm like, why am I here again?
Yep. Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
that
I
linear
get the, yeah,
timeline.
but okay. Yeah. But I did that. But look at what now I have to deal with. Look what's next. Look what's here. Like I'll,
Right.
yeah, but myself right back into a even bigger problem than the one I just overcame.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's
I
really the
know.
downside of the.
Because I got this super cute outfit, but it's like the buttons.
I'm really enjoying this interview.
I can go, I'm like laughing you. So this is why we don't do live.
It's getting hot in here. It's like very like we're just gonna just take off more clothes and
Like look at how cute it's like this cute little jumpsuit, right? It's so
totally cute.
It's denim and it's so hard. April, you want to help me with a button? Yeah. It's so hard to hold on, Gigi.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah. Well, luckily April has like the magic of photoshopping.
Yep.
We can cover up anything.
Hopefully my bruised eye doesn't look like I
don't see it on hers.
got in a
April,
fight.
I
I didn't even notice until she said something. Okay.
Okay, good. That's so funny.
Sorry.
No, we're good.
There.
Okay. Oh, I just popped that one. Okay, I'm gonna sit real still. Real still. Here we go. So how long can we be in this butterfly stage? Because I feel like as soon as I'm in it, it's like, guess what? Good job. Back to the beginning.
Right. Yeah. Well, but I don't, I don't think there's any particular time we're in it, but I think this does bring up how important it is to celebrate the moments we get there, because how quickly do we just move on to the next thing, or like, great, like we work so hard and we're like, okay, got it. And then we're on to the next thing. And even that thing that was such a struggle becomes the new normal. Have you noticed that? Like,
Oh yeah, all the time.
it's like,
oh
I
my
gosh,
even
a month
acknowledge it
ago.
before I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. And a month ago, I would have been just so happy to be in this. This is like what I have been like praying for and going for. And now it's like, oh, now I'm moving on to the next challenge. So really taking the time to do some kind of even ritual, like journaling about it, celebrating it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like really. And this is the thing, I think another downside of the linear model that we've been like really trained in is like, oh, I still have to catch up, or I need to get to that next thing, versus I just completed a cycle. Yeah. And I'm going to pause and celebrate and write about it, share about it, have a nice meal for myself, give myself a few days to go and do something really, wonderful, capture what came out of that. How did I grow? Like, I think to your point where you were saying how often you go through that cycle and then you're like, oh, here I am again. Maybe it's because we don't take the time to really name how we grew. Like, this is what I got out of this. This is how I grew. This is who I became. This is what I overcame. And like really acknowledge it. I think then when we move forward, we bring that with us. Like, no, I have grown. And now I am, but it's like we just move so fast past it.
Yeah.
That we're just into the next challenge. So like some kind of ritual about completing that cycle and celebrating these new wings that we have, because we will go back into the goo. I mean, it's just part of life's, and maybe it's like in a different area.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But then sometimes we have like longer periods of time where it just feels like we're cruising, we're just like, everything's good, everything's working, and to really like enjoy those times and not create something because we're just not used to feeling like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you're right on the money. We're so trained, at least, well, especially with my kind of job, like everything is crisis, crisis, crisis. And almost when there's no crisis, we'll start to think there's something wrong. It's like, wait a minute. Our central nervous system is so trained and very good at handling crisis that it's almost when there's not a crisis, what do I do with myself? I don't know how to be in this uncomfortable, like, comfort.
Right. Yeah. There's a, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like contentment.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do this in my early 20s. So my husband and I met when we were about 25, but before that, when I was dating, I realized like when I met him, there was like we were content,
Mm-hmm.
and I would I would start arguments because I wasn't like a fighter, but it was like, this is too like calm,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, and it like took me a while to kind of adjust to just feeling at peace.
Yeah. And being
You
okay
know,
with
so
that, not
and being
needing that
okay with that.
constant heightened central nervous system all on overdrive.
Yeah, and you can create in different ways, like let's go on an adventure, or let's learn something new together, or let's have an exciting experience versus like let's have a fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
So I can feel better about
That's good. I'm sure
I
your
can feel
husband feels
more.
better about that too.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, thank God you figured that one out.
Yeah. Early, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I did with you, and I just love it because now I've done it with you probably 3 or 4 times. And one of my favorite things and most learning things, and I know there's just a big misunderstanding of what it actually entails, is equine therapy. Again,
Mm.
we're talking about animals in nature. And for me, I'm just like you. Like if I can, and this is why I walk on the beach. I look for the animals. Like for me, I love animals in nature. It's our biggest lessons. For me, it's my biggest calming. And so I resonate with equine therapy so much. And when we first met, I was like, great, I get to ride the horses. We're going to be one. It's like, no, you actually never even get on the horse. And that was so different from me. It's such a gentle and subtle process. It's pretty amazing.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I love the equine work, and they teach us so much, right? And one of the things, like I love bringing in, you know, if we're looking at metaphors in nature, I love bringing in the metaphor of lead mare,
Yep.
because in a herd of horses, right, there's a lead mare, and it's usually the female, and she is the lead because she's the most calm and present with broad awareness. And so in the herd, she always gets her needs met first. She gets the food first, she gets the water first, she gets the sleeping first. And so she's such a great model for us of because we're so into like sacrificing for other people, or it's selfish to take care of our needs. But
Totally. Like as you're saying
yeah,
that, I'm like, it's directly against like the Simon Sinek leaders eat last. Like,
right.
and I've sort of been trained on that philosophy. And this is almost like the exact opposite of that. But it's neither are wrong. It's a good thing. Like the queen
Yes.
bee. Like it's just it's the best for the survival of the species.
Yes, and I love Simon Sinek's book. Like I love, so there's so much good in that too. So I think, yeah, it's like, what is it that's applicable at this time?
Mhm.
You know, for like, what do we need right now? And the biggest thing that I've gotten out of the lead mare metaphor is when we take care of ourselves, we're able to lead with clarity and broad awareness. Like a herd of horses will never follow the horse that's like frantic, hasn't had enough sleep, is like off, right? They'll put another horse in the lead.
Yeah.
So
So even the biggest, baddest stud doesn't matter. It's the lead mare. That's the boss.
it's the lead mare. Yeah. And the stallion is actually in the back of the herd watching out, but it's usually the female that's in the front,
Yeah.
leading. And so I've learned so much from them in that way. And also, equine therapy, another paradigm or something that shifts for us is we so often think of riding horses or rodeos, and a lot of those, and I don't want to make it all wrong, because there's ways to do it where we can actually care for the animals, but a lot of it is like very objectifying of animals,
Mm.
right? Like they're for our use. And so we're going to put things on them, or train them in a way, often out of fear, so that they do what we want. And if they're
Mhm.
not doing what we want, we can coerce them into doing what we want for our own enjoyment or our own, right, whatever we want to get out of it.
Yeah, whether it's feeding or clicking or hitting them or getting them to move. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we objectify them as these as for us. Whereas in equine coaching or equine therapy, they are our partners. They don't have any kind of harness on, right? As you've worked with them, so they can walk away, right? They can interact with us the way that feels good to them. And what happens is when we can't force them by like pulling on them or hitting them or, doing something that causes fear in them, it puts the focus back on us that we have to regulate our behavior. We have to look at, am I present? Am I exerting too much energy or not enough? How am I being that this horse is interacting with me the way that it is? And it brings up like all your own stuff, right? Because how we interact with the horse is usually how we interact with everybody, right? Or in every
or
situation.
significant others. There's
Yeah.
can be very specific demographics, which is always what came up for me. It always came back to the significant other thing. I'm like, why? How am I here again? Huh. But I love it because, like you said, it's such a beautiful mirror that if you didn't see it, you didn't see it.
Right. Yeah. And one of my favorite, I think I've shared this example with you, but one of my biggest in my training, one of the biggest like ahas I had was with a horse. The thing I brought in to work on was was having boundaries with really pushy energy, people with really pushy energy. Cause I was pretty good generally, but if somebody came on really strong, I'd back away. And I really wanted to work on those boundaries. So I picked this horse unknowingly. That was the pushiest horse in the herd. And he was next to me and he was like mouthing my face.
Yeah.
And the coach who was training, he said he was talking to me and this horse continued to mouth my face and it was uncomfortable, but I just let it. And he finally said, how's it going? And I said, well, it's kind of annoying. I'm trying to talk to you and this is happening. And he said, how come you haven't done anything about that? How come you haven't communicated that you don't want that to happen? And I said, because I don't want to lose the connection. And I said that. And when it came out of my mouth, it was like I saw my whole life.
Yeah.
And he said, so you don't want to draw a boundary because you don't want to lose the connection. Where else does that show up? And it was like, yeah, I was like, oh my God. And then the horse bit me.
Oh.
And I came out and what he said is, horses are herd animals. So they'll test your boundary. And if you don't have one, they'll enforce it because what they're saying is wake up. Because if you don't enforce your boundary, you're putting me and the entire herd at risk. And I got that, like, this is the power of working with horses because somebody could maybe tell me, communicate something like you really need to enforce these, but to have a physical experience like that and then to be able to communicate that kind of experience, like people just get it.
Yep.
Right. And then I started to see like, oh my gosh, when I don't draw those boundaries because I don't want to lose the connection, I just saw all the people that are impacted by me not drawing that boundary. And so that's like the power of working with horses and being present. I'm sure you got too from your work with the horses, like just the power of being present.
The power of being present. It really taught me. This last one was the first time I ever had an experience like that. I think it was Ruby, that one horse, same thing. She was just like bugging me and I'm trying to talk and I'm trying to listen. And she just like, and it was kind of making me a little nervous. I mean, they're huge. Like, she's like stepped on my foot. Like there was all kinds of shit, but it was that exact thing where it's like, where's your boundaries? Like, why are you tolerating this? And why is this okay? And it was the exact same thing. Like, oh, because if I don't, then this could happen or that could happen. And it's such a profound realization. And that's like just one of the, tons of realizations. Cause I don't want everybody to think, oh, I don't need to go do that now. Cause I can just realize that, but it's not, it's whatever is your issue that you're dealing with at the time. And one of the coolest things that I realized back to the beginning of what you were talking about with the horses is learning how to almost just call it in, because here, and you can educate us on this piece, the heart's the heart of a horse is like, how big is it? Like football field? Like it's crazy. And so it detects and it senses and it's very perceptive of all kinds of stuff way outside of their body. So to learn that, and it makes you, for me, even more hypersensitive. Like I don't want to do anything to this horse that they're not, in agreement with or wanting to do, but then trusting that I can sort of just call it in. There was a lot of photos where I would just close my eyes and I'd open them and there'd be 3 horses around me because I was calm and I was just communicating non-verbally and letting them come to me, which is so powerful in life. If you can learn how to do that and apply it to life.
So powerful. And that's I think one of the most powerful experiences about being with the horses is you get your own energy. Like you have an experience of your own energy because that's what they respond to. And so people, like when people go in who have, we all know people who come in with so much energy, like so how horses work is pressure release, pressure release. So they respond to pressure, energetic pressure, or some people use physical pressure, but in our work it's energetic pressure. So if somebody, that person that comes in and they're like bull in a china shop, right? They're just coming in with so much pressure and everybody's just backing away just because there's so much pressure that person's exerting just by their presence. And then there's people like me who come in more soft energy, and I actually have to bring up and elevate my energy and pressure to resonate. Right. Because I can be like the like chameleon, where I just kind of blend in. And I think it's just like a personal preference of kind of like, the invisibility cloak, right?
Yep.
And so people but if you tell a person you bring in so much pressure, like it's too much, it's like relax or whatever, people can't understand that. They're like, I'm just being myself. But if you come in and a horse like backs up because you just walked in, and then you work with that horse of still being yourself, but actually like tuning in to them, you get it in your body, like what that feels like. And for me, it was the practice of bringing up my energy. And so now I can tap into that same place to bring up my energy when I need to, and then release it when I need to.
Yeah. I love that. And again, this is where like it's important to do this with a trained professional because there's subtleties that your average untrained person wouldn't see. Do you see how their ear turned back that way? Do you see how their tail swooshed here? Do you see this? Like some things that, you would never expect me to just know that about horses. And that's where your role to sort of guide, not give answers, but guide and bring someone's awareness to what's happening with the horse, which is just the mirror of what's happening with you, to be able to see that and learn from it and reflect on it.
Yeah, and people who are trained with horses for riding or for in other ways, it's different.
It's totally
not right. It is just different. And I've had so many people who have had horses their whole life, train horses, and they end up in tears that they have a completely different relationship to this horse that they just met, because they hadn't connected in this particular way. It was all about training the horse. Versus being with the horse as a sovereign being with its own personality and preferences and sensitivities and history. Like there's a horse, Chocolate Chip, that you met, right? And Chocolate Chip has a scar on his front shoulder. He was abused. If you're not paying attention to that, but if you do pay attention to that and you approach him in certain ways, you can tell that he gets more sensitive on that side, and you're able to really get to know a horse and that they have this whole history that's happened to them too, versus a horse. Okay, I'm going to train him to do this and get him to do this, versus like, okay, he's more sensitive there. And he doesn't need a lot of pressure to move. And so it has us so much more self-aware. And it's really funny. I'll just share one more thing that I love observing and people get out of the horses is when people get really into story, just telling their story, this long drawn out story, like those stories that everybody starts to check out because it's like, oh my God, we've heard about the father-in-law and the this and that, right?
Yeah, all the things. Okay.
All this long story, and they're telling the story and they're telling the story. The horse will just walk away.
Yep.
They're
Bored.
like, start to eat grass, right?
Yeah.
They're like,
Yep.
oh, he doesn't like me. I need to maybe give him some, treats. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's not that he's not having a thought, I don't like you.
Yeah.
He's not, he's resonating with the disconnect
Mhm.
in the energy field. Like
Yeah.
you're totally disconnected from yourself in this story, and he's responding to that. So you have to be more interesting than the grass. And when we
Exactly.
tell our truth, like when we really dive into that simple, deeper truth, we become more interesting than the grass.
Yeah. And I love that because horses are just brilliant. They're just so smart. If you acknowledge them for that. And an example that I love, and this wasn't in equine therapy, but I went to do some horseback riding in Hawaii because I love horses. I did horseback riding, not a ton. I mean, I wasn't, we didn't have horses or anything, but I always connected with them. And I went to this one in Hawaii and I was there by myself. And I have my like purple hair, and the guy's like, "Oh, I got the perfect horse for you, LSD." And I'm like, "I'm trying to get away from that part of my life right now. I'm just here to be with the horse. Like, we're not talking about that." And yet here it is. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to embrace this. And yes, I got on the horse and I had my boots, super cute outfit. But like and again, this is in your mind. Like nobody can verify this as truth or anything. But I said to my horse, like, I can tell because he was like, oh, he's like rebellious. And I'm like, perfect. That is me. So I'm good with that. And so I just had like a connection with the horse. And I said, look, I can see you're a little bit rebellious. How about we hold back? We're the last. I'll let you eat because I know you love eating. And then you're going to run to catch up. And I'm going to act like, oh my gosh, yeah, I got to catch up. But this is how we're going to be able to let me run because we're on a guided ride and you're not supposed to be running the horses in the sand or whatever. But this is how we're going to play this game. And
Yeah.
that horse did exactly that. And even the people running the thing were like, dang, we never seen him do that before. We thought that horse was lazy. And I'm like, far from lazy. You just got to let him have his own determinism about things and then reward him for that. And then work together in like a collaboration where
Yeah.
you're both getting what you want out of it, which is what I like about it. It's a collaboration. It's not me. It's not them. It's not me being the boss, them being the boss. It's a collaboration of spirit.
Right. Yeah. Which you then can bring into every area of your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That's, I think the biggest thing with working with horses is you have a physical, because I'm sure you'll never forget that physical experience of connecting in that way
Yeah.
and then having that outcome. And then
Yeah.
you can bring that into your relationships
Absolutely.
in a new,
And
like embodied way.
an embodied way. And again, it's just what is true for your life. For me, it is being a boss. So it's allowing that animal to have its presence and working with it, not dominating it, which I could do. I could keep it in line. Don't eat this. Keep your blinders on. We're going to do this. Here's your picture. I could do that. But does that feed either one of our souls? Not really.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it creates a very adversarial relationship that's not ultimately as fulfilling as when we both get to rise. Like the horse will meet you at that energy, and it's like we both get to be better.
Right. Which is again great for a leader. Like, right.
Yeah.
You could rule with an iron fist. That's fine. People will
Yeah.
do it. Their life and survival depends on you. They don't like
Yes.
it, but they'll do it because you're telling them do it or you're going to lose your job. Or we can co-collaborate this existence together where it doesn't feel like we're being pushed or forced into things that we don't want. We like can understand the vision and get on board, and then we're all rowing in the same direction.
Right.
That's some of the cool stuff that I've learned from the equine therapy for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then being the lead mare and being okay with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Can men be lead mares?
Yes, I think so. Anybody can take the metaphors of nature and be like, okay, because men tend to, and this is a generalization, and I would say more masculine, like women in masculine will do this too, but be
Yeah.
in overdrive with provide. Like, I need to be a provider. I need to be a provider. I need to be a provider at all costs to ourselves. And so if we can look at how do I lead from broad awareness? How can I take care of myself so that I can I can be the most clear and the most connected and model that, then men too, everybody can lead from that place.
Yeah, yeah, because we had men in the last one, and they had just as profound realizations, although different, but same. I mean,
Yeah.
like for me, like that girl horse, she was a girl horse, but she was displaying mannerisms of guys I knew, let's say. But it doesn't matter. Again, gender doesn't matter. It's like however you get the lesson in whatever way you get it, none of that stuff matters. You don't need to know the how. You just need to know
Right.
the end.
Yeah, we all have masculine, feminine, and integrated. And I think it's whatever we take from it that is empowering, right? That's empowering to us, and watching it in nature unfold is like a beautiful model.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that I really enjoyed in nature at the last retreat, we did that. It was like a guided meditation, and I went outside, and because it was snowing, and I don't live in the snow, and I grew up in the snow, so I really miss the snow, and I don't mind getting out in the cold. And it was just such a beautiful experience to have the headphones on, do the guided meditation, but be out in nature while it was snowing and it was white everywhere. It was just so beautiful. Like, and I think again, like if we talk about the human nature, we've gotten very comfortable and safe, and you almost have to force yourself out into uncomfortable situations. But the beauty is there in putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. For me, I get way more out of that than doing what's comfortable, easy, and everybody's doing it kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like we've talked about following your own inner compass or creating a narrative that puts you in a relaxed state, right? But that's very different than not challenging yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I think sometimes there's like a difference too in how we can tune into our body with what is a no
Yeah.
and what is yes, but scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then moving, because if it's a no, then it's like, it's a no. I
Yeah.
don't care how much I get out of that or how much people say I should do that. For me, that does not feel like alignment.
Yeah.
But then there's another experience. It's like, okay, I can see, I feel drawn to that. My body's sort of leaning towards that. I want to experience that. And now I'm feeling discomfort, and my survival mechanism wants to just like say no. Right. But if we actually tune in, we can feel the difference in our body, like how the nuances of how one or the other feels.
Yeah.
And then you can hold that feeling. And yeah, because it's like if we don't have, I love the thought that growth happens on the edge of challenge and support.
Yep.
So we have the challenge, but we also have the support, right? It's like we're not going off into some challenge where we don't have the support available for us to, you know, to make it through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So putting ourselves this past week, so I've been challenging myself more physically, and I noticed how I'll like sign up for I signed up for the sculpt yoga class, and then we have a cold plunge in our backyard. And then what was the other thing? Oh, I was going to go hike. We live in Park City, so there's a lot of trails and stuff. And so I was going to hike in the evening. And I'll like sign up to do it. Like I'll put it in my calendar. And then in my head, I'm like, I probably won't do that. Like it's just like a pattern. And so this week everything that I said I was going to do, because I said it from an aligned place. Like I really do want to go to that class. I really do want to do that evening hike. I really do want to do the cold plunge.
Yeah.
And then in that moment where I found myself in that pattern of like, well, that water's really cold right now. Like,
Yeah.
maybe I'll just
And
get
that
in my
never gets
cozy,
easier.
maybe I'll just get in my cozy sweats and watch
Yep.
TV.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I'm like, no, just keep going. And so that is my personal challenge, just is to move through those physical things. Because I'm really good with the mental. And so I'm moving through more of the physical challenges. And I did the ice plunge, I did the night hike, I did the yoga sculpt class. And on the other side of that, I'm like, I grew, like I feel so good about doing that versus like wimping out.
What's so funny, what you said right there is I'm really good at the mental, not the physical, but everything you described, yes, it was physical, but it started with the mental. You
Yes.
had to get yourself into that spot to do that.
Yeah.
Your body wasn't going to do it on its own. So you definitely had to have that strong mental fortitude to put your body through that. especially
Yeah.
knowing what's coming. Like once you've done a
Right.
cold plunge, you know what you're getting into. And it's like to talk yourself into it sometimes, like, and that's where I'm like, I'm not talking. I'm taking off the lid and I'm getting right in,
Yes.
because if I tip my toe in or I try to, like, ease in there, it's just miserable. Just get in.
You just have to do it. I have
You just
two,
have to do it.
yeah, I have two boys, 15 and 18. The 18-year-old, he'll go out there and stare at the water. And he'll put his finger in his toe and he just stares at it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's never getting in. And the other one just comes out and pops right in.
Yeah, that's how you got to do it. It's kind of like jumping off the high dive. You just
Yeah.
got to do it.
You
I
just
mean, you
have
can
to
do it the
like,
other way, but it's long,
yeah,
torturous, and miserable. You might as well just pull off that Band-Aid and get in there.
right. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I love that you're cold plunging. Have you felt, I mean, I feel like it really helps with like inflammation, but if your diet and all that is good, that's probably not the biggest benefit for you. But what would you say is the biggest benefit since you started cold plunging?
Well, I know there's all the science of like what it's doing. One thing
Yeah.
that I just really, really love is after the first 20 seconds where I'm like hyperventilating, I really love being outside in cold. Like I love the experience and I really, really love how I feel after.
Yeah.
So that's like the unscientific response with what I'm getting out of it. But afterwards, whatever that feeling is, like when your body's kind of cold on the inside,
Yeah.
and I feel more energized in the day. And there's just something about it that I feel better after. And then I also do have I feel good about doing it. Like it was a physical challenge
Yeah.
that I did. And I do think that I do notice in subtle ways that I'm able to push myself more in other ways because I did that. I like overcame that
Yep.
because getting in cold water, like I'm not a cold water, like when we go to the ocean and things, I'm not diving in the ocean. Like I'm not a cold water person. I'm like
Yeah.
warm, cozy, get my sweats, the hot shower.
Yep. Yep. Unless it's like
So
hot water, like Hawaii, that's okay.
yeah, exactly. I'll get in a warm ocean.
Yeah. Yep.
So there is something about overcoming that challenge and feeling good on the other side.
Yeah,
And
for
then I
sure.
do know that it has all these physical benefits that I remind myself of when I'm looking at the water.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I started utilizing it as a accelerator to positive affirmations and visualizations. So I'll go in there, you're a badass bitch, you're a this, you're that. And I'm like really like cheerleading myself, but I'm like putting out in that intense, like freezing, because it's like a powerful in that state. For
Yes.
3 minutes, I'll just try to positively affirmate all the coolest shit about me. You're abundant, you're a badass bitch, you're this, you're that. And I'm like, and then I
Yeah.
get out and I'm like, yeah, I am.
That's true. Yeah.
Because not
Totally.
everybody's sitting in that for 3 minutes. Like I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah. I'm going to do that.
Yes. Oh, it's so
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you have access to all the millions of affirmations or different mantras that you could say, but it's really cool to just cement it in there during that time.
Yeah. And my son, so my younger son loves it. And when he gets out, he's like, I am one with the trees. So there's something he's like, I just feel so powerful. And he
Yeah.
does his little affirmation. He listens to some guy on YouTube and he's like, he'll say his things as he's in there.
Yeah. There you go. Well,
Yeah.
and it makes sense, right? Again, it all goes back to nature and what resonates. Like we used to have to bathe in freezing cold rivers and lakes and all that kind of stuff. We didn't have heated showers. Like if we
Yeah.
wanted a clean body, we had to get in cold ass water. That was just
Right.
part of the deal. So it's cool to sort of bring back to, like, for him, that primal feeling of this is how it's been and how it's always been, kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember in a meditation, I really got this clear message that all the convenience that we have created has disconnected from us from ourselves and community.
Yep.
And I really, really got that, like how much we've created these worlds where we're so comfortable, hot shower and the warm and the things arriving at our door. And there's something about those experiences, whether it's cold plunge or whatever it is for us,
CrossFit.
that CrossFit or anything that it's like it connects us to ourselves and it also connects us to the natural world and each other.
Yep.
Like I'm not out in my backyard cold plunging with other people, but it still gives me a more of a sense of community in a weird, like you're connected to something more like yourself, the other people, like
The
there's just
collective.
something that gets you out of that convenience isolation
Yes.
in doing those things. Yeah.
100%. There's an amazing book called The Comfort Crisis, and it talks about that, and has explorers out in Antarctica and what they go through, but it really delves into how we've gotten so far away from that, and that's part of our disconnection of community, just like what you said, is
Yeah.
because of the comfort. And so it's really fascinating, and that's why for myself, and it sounds like you, I sort of artificially put myself in discomfort, because if I don't, life will do it for me. So I might as well at least be positive over it. But then it also generates, like you talked about, the community. And I think about like CrossFits like that. You're in there in the trenches together. Although you're doing this for your own personal health and well-being, it's that community aspect of us all doing that together that really builds the strong bonds. And it feels way more fulfilling than I'm just working out because it makes me feel and look good.
Right. Yeah. And I think so I read Simon Sinek's book a long time ago, Leaders Eat Last, but I do
Yep.
remember there was some part in there around when we're experiencing challenge together, like how it brings us together.
Yeah.
And it was just like a moment in that book that really hit me where when we do challenging things together, like and I think that's what happens in the retreats, right? It's like it's a novel experience. You're out with the horses, you're doing a meditation out in the snow, or like there's something that's new. And so you have this deeper connection with the people that you're going through it with, because
Oh,
you're not just on this road, like this is what you're not just in that convenience and isolation, but like we went through something together.
oh, for sure. And no matter what it is, I mean, I think about even just doing like art therapy with your mom. She's got this amazing playlist. We're all just coloring as adults or doing all the art, but and it's our own little piece, but we're doing it together as a group. So it's this amazing like group therapy, single therapy by group therapy. It's like such a
Yeah.
cool process to go through together. And that's why I love your retreats so much, because yeah, I could do that at home. In fact, I have my little art projects, but it's just not the same as when we're all doing
Right.
it together and that creativity is flowing and we're talking and it's light and it's fun and it's airy and it's not so hyper focused. It's just like freeing up your mind to just sort of allow the creativity to flow through.
Yeah, and I thank you for sharing about the retreat your experience, because I love hearing like how meaningful they've been to you. There's so much love that's put into curating those experiences, and I think one of the things that you're speaking to is like when we have these novel experiences, and then we're with other people in these curated, very intentional gatherings, it has us really be fully present,
Yeah.
in the mind. We're not by ourselves doing some art where our head is like off somewhere else ruminating. It's like
Yeah.
we're alert to a novel experience, so we're really aware, and then we have all of the components to be relaxed
Yeah.
and really connect with each other in new ways, and it feels so good.
Yeah.
And we even realize like how much it's missing. Like so often we're like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to take a few days off or try whatever. And then we do. And it's that whole like go slow to go fast, right? Like we get that insight that's like catapults us, or we feel so rejuvenated going back to our
Yeah.
lives, or we just release some heavy weight.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and all of it, whether you're doing the work on yourself or you're around people, which, I've learned people are just beautiful mirrors of ourselves, right? And so
Right.
even watching other people go through it, maybe you're not going through it, but then that is you going through it because you're witnessing it. And how does that relate to my life? And I can see this clearly in them. Ooh, wait a minute. So is that something with me? Like it's really neat because I know a lot of people, the energies of all the people, it's too much. It's like, no, but that's part of the process. And that's that self-induced, it's not your own doing. This is being presented to you. Okay, so now how does that, kind of like the horses, how does that reflect on you by you witnessing and being there with others and what they're going through too?
Yeah, and sometimes you can get that celebration too of witnessing how far you've come by
Yeah.
witnessing other people's experiences. Like if we're all kind of in the same energy, right? We're all evolving. It's like, oh, and not like a better than, but like, oh, you know what? I can witness where that person is. I remember being in that space and I'm celebrating my growth. It's like we can actually see ourselves in the absence of ourselves. And so that's also a powerful part of being with other people, is really seeing our own path, right? Seeing our own growth. And then we
Yeah.
have our area we're still growing, you know.
Oh
like,
yeah. You know,
we have
like
our
we
edge
talked
of
about that
growth.
loop. It's like, I'm just rounding the bend to be back there again. Don't worry.
But we're like, but that one I've grown a lot.
Yep. And yet here I am. No.
And I'm here. Well, I always look at like we all have our edge of growth, right?
Yeah.
Like always. There's always the edge of growth. Always, always, always. So if we can name it, it doesn't, for me, like if I name it, it doesn't cause the upset or it doesn't put me in that like, now why am I here? You know, it's like, okay, so this is working, this is working, where's my edge of growth? Oh,
Yeah.
here. And then it's like, oh, of course that's showing up. Of course I'm dealing with that today because that's my edge of growth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like if I'm leading a retreat and there's I don't know if this is the best thing to share, but like let's just say I'm leading a retreat and there's like usually somebody that's a little challenging for me. I'll just name it. Like there's usually like a personality or like there's just something that's like pushing my edge and not like I don't want them here or anything like that, but it's just like a little it triggers me in some way, it brings up something for me. And I used to, when I started, it was like, everything would just be perfect if like that wasn't happening. So like you're ruining, this is ruining it kind of attitude. And now I'm like, every retreat is going to have its edge of growth.
Yep.
For me, for the group. So what is it? Like I try to spot it as fast. It's like a game. I try to spot it as quickly as I can. So then the rest of the time becomes like a game of working that growth edge until I can get myself unlocked from it.
Yeah.
And then if it's a person or maybe it's the space, right? Or we had a snowstorm and we have to change schedules and that's the edge of growth or whatever it is. It's
We
like,
don't
okay,
have power for 3 days in the jungle.
right. That is exact. That
All
was
those are opportunities for growth. That was my favorite time there, is when we had no power for 3 days.
exactly. And that is a perfect example of in Costa Rica. I should have used that example rather than a person because that was more when we showed up in Costa Rica, when we were driving from the little small airport to the resort center, and this, is a space that is known for curating like phenomenal experience, and you arrive there to like the candlelit dinner and the chef, the 5-star chef and everything else.
Yeah.
And I get a call, 20 minutes out, drive slow. We just had 5 trees fall down and no power. I'm like, okay. And we arrived, and I remember the conversation we had on the first morning because we had no Wi-Fi, we had no electricity. They had a generator in the kitchen, so we did have food. But the conversation too was around, okay, if we're only free and we only feel good when we have electricity and Wi-Fi and all our comforts met, like that is not true freedom.
Yep.
So how do you be free when you have no electricity or things don't go as planned? And that really shifted, like we as a group shifted our relationship to no power and the context. And then we had a nickname for ourselves. We were like the no Wi-Fi. I don't know. We had like a fun nickname for it.
Yeah.
And then it was like a good challenge in that growth. And then by the time it came on after the 3rd day, I remember everybody's like, oh,
Yeah.
like,
It was
yeah,
almost instantaneous. Like, I don't want to say the connections were cut or lost, but now we had outside influences. Everybody had their phones. Let me check my emails. Oh, social media. Oh, my boyfriend sent me this. I missed it 3 days ago, but now here it is. Like, life just came in, and the connections of us all being so close because there was nothing else. Not that it went away, it just changed because then everybody had other things that they were more important or, pressing or that sort of thing, responsible for. And it just
right.
changed things. And so it definitely made me go, man, I think I would be down for a retreat where we just don't have that the whole time. Like that would be kind of cool too. Scary,
Yeah,
but
like you,
it,
yeah,
the
like
connection is just there because, and it reminded me of like how we grew up. That's what
Mhm.
you did. We didn't have cell phones and internet. We literally had to go physically connect. That was
Right.
how we did life. There was no other stuff. I mean, we had TVs, but very limited. It was just a different era, but we learned how to connect with people. And I don't think a lot of the kids have that same benefit these days.
Yeah, there's so much outer influence. I mean, there's benefits too, right? There's
Right.
the connections you can make with people all over the world. But the downside is that really intimate connection that you're in the cocoon together, like you're in this, this really pure experience. So those challenges can bring that. Like I always look at the retreats, like whatever happens is the retreat that you ordered. Like this is because no one is the same. It's like, oh, this is the retreat I offer, and everybody just runs through it. It's like, no, this is a co-created experience. All of our energies, all of what we're bringing, the environment at the time, like it's all a co-creation. And so it is truly like whatever is supposed to be and whatever we all need to get out of it, including the challenges.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it fun.
It makes it fun. And that is where you're speaking of experience, because I know early on as a person that's being the host, you're so concerned about everybody having a good time. Oh my God, they didn't look like they had a good time. I got to go fix that. Did they not get their food? Should I do this? They're asking for that. Like you go over the top because you want everybody to have a good experience. And sometimes that good experience is them being challenged by a bad experience, but that's the experience they're supposed to have. And again, that's where it's so hard as a leader, as a creator of these groups, and even a parent to go, it's not perfect, but it's perfect for what it needs to be for everybody here. I can't control everything.
Right. Exactly. And I had my own insight around that of I am actually not offering spa retreats. I'm offering transformational retreats.
Yeah.
So
we're
it
not just going to get a facial and a foot rub. Like we're doing some work.
So we can include massage and things like that. But for me to actually focus on every single thing being perfect and everybody feeling good at every single moment is like ripping that butterfly out of the cocoon. Like the transformational retreat is actually supposed to create some discomfort and some tension and some struggle, right? And then we'll go get a massage or we'll go, have a good meal.
Yeah.
But the intention even isn't for it all to feel good. But there can be that hyper focus on like, oh my God, their meal was late, or they didn't get what they wanted. And of course we have to be accountable for the experience that we promise. And like, that's really important to me. But then there's like what happens that you have no control over, like losing power. And then how do you shift that to this is exactly what it's supposed to be?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Can't wait for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I know we ran a little over, so I'm not trying to rush you off, but Jaime, can you please tell everyone where they can find you if they want to come to one of your awesome custom retreats or the 1 days, hopefully some bigger ones in the future, or they even want to work with you on coaching and all the different things that you're doing? Because you are just, like you said, Mary Poppins, a wealth of information and tools and ways to help people that are phenomenal. You're like one of my favorite mentors in this area for sure.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, so shinelifedesign.com is my website. Most of the retreats and courses are on there. And then people can email me, Jaime, Jaime, at Shine Life Design for coaching and whatever else.
Great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm not really on, Instagram is also, I'm just not a social media person. I think that is something that I don't know. I don't know if I'm working towards that. I
have a love-hate with it for sure. I go in, I go out, yeah.
Well, and one of the things that I've really found, and I tell other people who are, this is a little off topic, but that are even looking at creating something, is you can create something really beautiful and meaningful and a successful business and work with amazing people and do things really well and creatively without a social media presence. Like we've kind of created this perception in our world that you need that.
Yes.
And you don't. I mean, that could be one thing, but it's just never one thing that I have personally been drawn to creating it yet. But so that's, you can kind of see what's available at Shine through there, but really the website or email.
I love that because I do feel like that's part of like this matrix trap is this whole social media and the likes, the followers, the downloads, the comments, the algorithms, the this, that. Oh, you messed up. You did that. Oh, now that affects all this. Oh God. And we're just like chasing all the time, which like takes the joy out of just creating and putting it out there for whoever.
Right. Yeah. Or thinking that, yeah, if someone doesn't have that too, they don't have something to offer, or if we don't have that. So I like to just keep it really, I think one of my, just something that I love is like really connecting with people, just really connecting with like an
Yeah.
individual person, working with them, having them in a retreat. My retreats are intimate. They're about 12 people.
Yeah.
So I really prefer those kinds of environments. So.
For sure. And the in-person is nice.
Yeah.
Because
So,
then we
and
could do
Shine,
hugs.
what?
Because then we could do hugs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, and get to know each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because I really try to create like custom experiences for
Mhm.
people, especially with the coaching and even suggesting which retreats. It's really curated for that person. It's not like an assembly line.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah. So, and on Shine Life Design website, there's a contact form too that people can fill out, and that also will reach us. So.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm glad we
Oh.
got it all worked out and all that. And anything I can do to assist you or help you in any way, you can always reach out to me as well.
Oh, thank you, Angie. So
You're
fun to
welcome.
be here. Thanks for our
Yeah,
conversation. This
I
has been
know. We
great.
could talk for like 3 more hours,
I know
but
we could.
people might get bored. That's fine. We can always do another one.
What are you doing later?
Yeah. So what are you making for dinner?
I'm sure whatever we pick would be an interesting conversation for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on this show.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks,
All right.
Angie.